Story 1. Entitled mother lets her kid steal my blind cane. So, a bit of backstory. I'm a 28-year-old woman who just recently went fully blind. When I was a teenager, I volunteered with my local youth group to help rebuild Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina, and while down there, I picked up a fungal parasite called histoplasmosis that over a decade migrated to my eyes and slowly caused blindness. I've been totally blind for about a year now, so I'm pretty new to it, but I digress. When I first went blind, I barely left the house and was afraid to go in public. I felt like everyone was staring at me, and in all honesty, I barely knew what I was doing. The transition had been difficult, and I didn't have any support group to teach me. One day, my husband asked if I can take an Uber down to the bank and deposit a rent check, and I reluctantly agree. While out, he messaged again and reminds me that we're out of a few crucial groceries. There was a Walmart grocery literally across the street from the bank, so I figured everything in a life is an experience and I'll have to learn how to shop alone eventually, so why not? Everything was fine at first, and I was only grabbing a few things, so I didn't need a cart. I was using my cane and what little echolocation skills I had at the time to get around, but was still bumping into things as we blind tend to do sometimes. My cane suddenly hit something a bit softer, and I figured maybe I had whacked someone's leg and apologize. Cue entitled kid, EK, and entitled mother, EM. Shoot, I'm sorry, entitled mom. Hey, you just hit my son. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't see him there. How could you not see him? He's clearly right here. Now, I'm fully blind, but I don't wear sunglasses, mostly because I can't afford a good UV-blocking pair, so I'm not ever looking for pity or to play the part of a generic blind person. I just want to be treated like a normal person, but I do understand her confusion as blindness is a spectrum, so I try to calmly explain. Me. Ma'am, I'm blind. I can't see anything, let alone your son. That's why I have to use the cane, so I can get around without... She cuts me off. If you're blind, then why aren't you wearing big sunglasses? Now, as a blind person, I get a lot of stupid questions, but I understand a lot of them are just people who don't know better, so I try to happily answer as many as I can. Me. Those are really expensive, around $200 for a good pair, and I really don't need any inside. Entitled mom. You're not blind, you're faking it. Here is where my blood starts to boil. I can't think of any reason someone would want to pretend to be blind. It's an actual hell, and nothing pees me off more than whenever someone calls me a liar when I'm not. Just as I'm about to respond, I feel a tug, and before I blink, I realize this damn little demon spawn has snatched my $100 cane from my hands. For those of you who don't understand, that's like if you're shopping and suddenly the power goes out and you can't see a single light. Without my cane, I can barely move at all without crashing into anything. My voice gets shaky as I begin to panic. Please give that back. I really do need it. No, you don't, you liar. My son deserves to play with this more than you. I heard her shuffle away and my expensive cane cracking into metal displays and such as they leave. I start crying and waving my arms in front of me to grab onto something, anything, and it ends up crashing and falling into a center aisle display, making a loud scene. Without fail, I somewhat curl into a ball and cry. I'm alone in public, in the dark, and I had no idea what to do. I suddenly feel a hand on my shoulder and a man's voice, we'll call him AG for awesome guy, asks if I'm okay and to stay right here. I do, but begin to at least sit up and listen. This man must have been tall and built like a tank because his footsteps sounded like a giant, and I felt a suction of wind when he took off. Maybe about 30 or 40 feet away, I hear this loud bellowing like an angry lion and a loud crash. Then before I know it, the man is back and helping me to my feet. He takes my hand and puts my cane into my palm and helps me pick up the items I dropped when I fell into the display. Me, wiping tears from my cheeks. Thank you so much. I didn't know how to handle that. AG, don't worry about it. Some people are just monsters. This guy restored my faith in humanity and even helped me finish shopping and helped me out of the store. As we're leaving, I can hear the familiar screeching of entitled mom, something about awesome guy grabbing the cane and pulling hard, flinging her little devil child into a shopping cart. I don't know if she was exaggerating or not, but it would explain the crash I heard. It's easy to feel alone in a world without sight, but even through the sheer terror of being stripped of my cane, at least I know now that there are people willing to stand up for me when I need it. First off, Huge props to Awesome Guy, and huge props to the person posting this for taking that chance, doing that first step outside. I imagine that cannot be easy, but you tried, and then someone made that a miserable experience. And that entitled mom and that little kid deserve to have, charges pressed against them. This is absurd. I guess maybe not the kid, but the mom for raising a monster. And who encounters someone that says, I'm blind, and has the cane, and then is so confident in themselves to be like, no, you're not. I'm going to let them take this. And a person like that, just what an awful kind of human being. Can you imagine if this person had friends and there was video of that taken and you just showed all those friends? Who would still be friends with someone like that? I want you to imagine if you had someone who was a dear friend of yours, and then you saw them do something like that. I can't think of anyone in my life that I would not then go what is wrong with you? I can't be around you. What an awful, awful thing that you have done. Just how do people operate like this? I don't understand. Story 2. We're having a 6th kid we can't afford, so we expect you to give us your college fund. I am a 19-year-old female, my parents' 2nd child. I have 3 brothers, 21, 13, and 7, and a sister, 16. We grew up poor, and our parents were often dependent on financial help from relatives, friends, etc. for raising us. This is because even though my dad has a mediocre job and my mom doesn't work, they just kept on popping out one kid after another. My parents are very religious and believe that children are a gift from God. Personally, I think that's total BS. My parents' reproductive choices wouldn't bother me if it hadn't caused mine and my siblings' lives to turn to crap. While growing up, we never had new clothes or toys. We had to accept handouts from family members who were better off. We never went out or did anything fun. To top it off, we were well aware that the rest of the family looked down on us for constantly asking for handouts. Now, my older brother and I have managed to get into good colleges and are looking forward to a future that would be better than our parents' lives. He and I were staying at our parents' place for a while due to the COVID-19 lockdown. One morning, my parents call all 5 of us into the living room. Mom says she had great news. The smile that was forming on my face died a quick death when she said, "We're pregnant." I lost my temper. I asked them how they could be so stupid and irresponsible. Do they not have enough financial troubles already that they have to bring in another mouth to feed? My older brother tried to calm me down, but I was livid. After a lifetime of scarcity because of my parents' stupidity, they still hadn't learned their lesson. I asked them how they planned to provide for the kid. My dad told me I would have to give up the money our great uncle had left me. He had left all 5 of us some money which only we could access when we turned 18. I said, hell no. That money would help pay for my college expenses. He called me selfish for not being there for my family. I told them if they couldn't provide for the kid, they should get an abortion. My mom started crying and called me a heartless monster. Dad told me he was disgusted with me. I told them there was no way I was going to pay for their stupidity, and the only thing I would be willing to pay for is a termination. What I was really worried about was my siblings' lives getting even worse. My older brother and I have escaped our parents' clutches, but the others, especially my young sister, will be expected to help take care of this baby. No teenager deserves to have their adolescence ruined by diapers and a screaming baby. I know what it's like, as I had to go through that. It was expected of me to be an unpaid nanny to my younger brother and sister. My older brother could go out with his friends and have fun, but I had to stay home and help give baths and feed the toddlers. I decided to get some family members involved so they could talk some sense into my parents. I called my mom's maternal cousin, one of my favorite people. When I told her that mom and dad were having another kid, she reacted with, "What, again?" I told her everything and how they expected me to hand over my inheritance. She said she was going to speak to my parents and told me not to sign over anything. I promised her I wouldn't. Of course I won't. I also called 2 of my first cousins, one of whom is an accountant, so she could explain to my parent how much of a financial liability this baby is going to be and try to convince them either to abort or give it up for adoption. I moved out of my parents' home a few days ago. I was only going to stay there till the lockdown was relaxed, but I just can't bear to listen to my mom's nagging about how this baby is a blessing and that I want to kill it. I've moved into a friend's basement for a minimal rent. My mom's cousin paid them a visit about a week ago and tried to tell them they weren't doing this child any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. My mom was very rude to my aunt and told her that a woman who chose to remain barren will never understand a mother's love. My aunt never wanted kids nor had any, one of the reasons she's my fave. My dad told her to get out. Aunt told me there was nothing she could do, but she did try. I didn't blame her. The cousin tried to explain the economic impact this kid would have, and my mom cried about how everyone was trying to take her away her baby. The intervention didn't do crap. So now I've decided to cut contact with my parents. I just can't watch my family slide further and further into a hellhole. I'll be maintaining contact with my sister, 16, just to make sure my parents can't brainwash her. My older brother is going to stay in touch with all of them, which is a good thing, as he can act like a link between me and the other siblings if my parents ever forbid them from talking to me. Otherwise, I'm done with these people. Yesterday afternoon, I got a call from my older brother. He told me that my mom has miscarried. This was hardly surprising, as she's in her 40s. I felt a huge wave of relief wash over me. My siblings' lives would not be worsened, and my parents' insistence on adding another mouth to feed on an already tight budget. My sister would not be asked to give up her inheritance, so they could have money for their new baby. My brother told me that my mom had been crying, and while I did feel bad for her, I was still glad to hear about the miscarriage. I feel like we all dodged a huge bullet. Bro asked me to move back in for a while to help comfort my mom. I told him I wasn't going to move in because 1, my college would reopen in a few days, and 2, I'm done with all the family drama. However, I did agree to come visit my mom, if only out of courtesy. In the evening, I went over to my parents' place. I bought chocolate chip muffins for my mom, which I knew she likes. My sister greeted me at the door and told me Mom had been in bed all day. After greeting my dad, I went into their bedroom. Mom was sitting up on the bed. I told her I was sorry about what happened and placed the muffins on the bedside table. She looked at me angrily, then threw the muffins at me. She screamed at me that she had lost her baby because of me. She said I had caused her stress, and it's what caused her to miscarry. She said I was probably glad the baby was dead, which is true, but of course I didn't point that out. She called me a witch and said I had wished this upon her. She was screaming so loudly all my siblings and my dad came rushing to the bedroom. She yelled at me to get out. I did. I hugged my older brother and sister. Before I left, my dad told me my mom was right, that my cruelty caused her to miscarry. I told him that was a grossly unfair accusation and reminded him that at my mom's age, it was quite common to miscarry. Then I walked out. Now, I'm sure that there are nicer ways that you could have put some of that stuff, but also, I have not lived this person's life, and I have not gone through what they've had to go through with these parents, and so I don't think I can blame her for maybe being a little harsh with her words on that stuff. But also, yeah, these parents could have had the option to just say, like, we should probably give it up for abortion. Adoption. If they're not comfortable with abortion. There are many people out there looking for kids that could give this kid a better life when you don't have the money for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Adoption is a beautiful, wonderful thing. But as parents, people, they get stuck on these ideas. And yes, love can get you through a lot, but putting the rest of your family and this child through all this financial difficulty isn't great, you know? So sometimes you got to think bigger picture. So yeah, I cannot blame this person for what they've said. And then for the mom to accuse her, I understand the mom's in a very emotionally vulnerable place, but to blame one of your other kids for this and call them a witch. Look, if you think kids are a blessing from God, do you really think another person can magic away your gift from God? God's just going to allow that? Come on, what about his big plan and stuff like that? I'm sorry, pick a lane, okay? But emotionally vulnerable, she's distraught. Hopefully this family has gotten over this and can repair some damages, but jeez. Story 3. Sat down on my friend's MacBook and broke it, offered to pay her, but she wants more. I had some of my friends over at my house, and one of my friends invited one of her other friends to come over. She had her MacBook on my couch when I sat on it and broke it. Since it was completely my fault, I offered to pay her the money for it, and she agreed. She got it 3 years ago, and it cost $2,200 at the time. I told her I'd wire you the money in a week to her bank account. She's now emailed me saying that as per our conversation, she's expecting the $2,700 that I have agreed for. I don't know why she added the extra money, so I got her number from my friend and called her to find her telling me she's now expecting me to pay for her new upgraded MacBook since she was upgrading anyway. She said if I don't agree to do that, she'll be suing me in small claims court. Can a judge agree to that? Should I wire her the $2,200 or should I just tell her to go sue me? Update. I went through every single comment from the 200 plus ones, and I sincerely thank each and every one of you. I did some research specifically for repairing the screen for the MacBook and for her particular model. It's around $310 for the screen plus the labor cost, so I wrote her back saying that since she didn't accept my initial offer of $2,200, I'm withdrawing that offer and offering to pay for the repair cost. She sent me an email calling me a B and that she's going to take me to court. I got served a few days later and went to court. I told the judge I gave her 3 options to choose from. 1, either to write her a check for a brand new one, which was $2,200. 2, get her a refurbished one from Apple or a third party, or even used one, which would be around $1,400. Or 3, fix her current MacBook since the screen is the only thing affected here, and it would cost around $300 plus money for labor. I printed out the email I sent her and the mail she sent back refusing the $2,700 and calling me a B and saying we'll go to court, plus screenshots for the price quotes from the different websites for a new/refurbished and the screen fix for her particular model, and gave it to the judge. As I told him that when I offered at the very beginning to get her a new one from the Apple Store, she said, "No, I want the money in cash." When I told her I'd give her the $2,200 for a new one, she said okay, but later came asking for $2,700 because she wants to upgrade. I tried to show him how it's clearly visible that she's trying to take advantage of me. She gave the judge an attitude almost the whole time, which really peed the judge off and helped my case, I guess. After listening to both of us, he ruled that I pay 50% of the repair cost since she negligently left her laptop on the couch, so I'll only be paying not more than $200 to $250 for the whole thing. If it weren't for you guys, I would have paid $2,200 instead of around $200, and I honestly loved her look at the end as we walked out. I'm so happy to hear this. I'm just taking so much delight. Oh, the schadenfreude here. She got less than any of the offers you made. Your $2,200 offer was ridiculously generous. The fact that you were willing to just do that when it's like, well, let's see what a repair cost would be. I'll get it fixed for you. Like, that would have been my initial offer because brand new, especially MacBooks, overpriced nonsense that they are so expensive. So I'd have been like, yeah, let's get this fixed. I'll fix it. And the fact that she's trying to squeeze you for more for an upgrade and stuff, boy, oh boy, that greed, huh? That really pay off for you, MacBook person? Did it? Huh? I'm so glad. Man, like, as the judge, I bet the judge was really tempted to be like, no, I'm not going to have her pay anything. Oh, I'm going to just destroy this person. But I'm sure she had to be somewhat reasonable and be like, okay, yeah, you did sit on it. And the fact that you're only paying half. Beautiful, delicious. MacBook girl, suck a lemon, you dork. Story 4. Dyed my hair blue so the boss would stop blaming me for hair in customers' food. All the other employees were Indian women with very long black hair. Mine was sort of similar, I suppose, medium length and brown, but every time a customer would complain about long black hair in the food, my boss would immediately blame me without any hesitation or investigation, despite the fact that I was the only person who wore my hair up and netted. So one day I dyed my hair blue with the sole purpose of not being blamed for black hair being in the food. You guessed it. It happened, and how huffy and annoyed my boss was when I said it couldn't be my hair because mine is blue was beyond amusing. I mean, honestly, it sounds like this boss has kind of a vendetta against you, and frankly, that doesn't sound like a very good work environment. Like, I mean, blue hair is great. I'm all for it. I'm sure you're looking pretty rad, so, I mean, cool on that, I guess, but also this boss sounds miserable. And if I were you, I hope you can find a better job, or just find more interesting ways to make this boss's life just miserable, because it sounds like they need just at least a little bit of putting in their place. Okay? Do it for me. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.